Hello, loves. The energy has been very heavy for the last few days. Let me know how you're feeling. I know we're coming out the other side of the moon and into the beginning stages of Saturn, the planet of karma retrograde, as well as obviously the Lion's Gate portal this couple week time frame. Given how the energies have been feeling, I pulled a few cards before I came on here to just gain some clarity on what we were going to talk about today. And as I was shuffling, the first card that showed up was closing door completion. And one thing that's been very clear over these past couple months is that it's like we've been having one foot in the new and one foot in the old, processing and cleaning up loose ends and also starting to touch into the new. What I'm feeling is also over this last couple months, timelines shifted, and you may have found yourself on older or different timelines, processing, cleaning up, and closing and completing out old karmic patterns. And this could have happened in one area or multiple. So, like past romantic relationships, family patterns, work patterns, any types of patterns. But this is feeling like this time that we're in specifically, there is a lot closing out. Some of the energies and messages that have been coming through are to give space and grace to allow some time for this transition to occur. And this, again, is where we might find ourselves completing up loose ends still in some of the older energies, but then touching in on the new. I keep getting 18 months. I've been getting that before I knew. I cannot exactly remember because I'm not an astrology person, but there's something. I think the North Node and the South Node are switching for the next 18 months. And I started getting 18 months before I knew that. And what was coming through for me, I'm going to share that with you guys, is to hold everything that's been coming to this point that you've worked on, that I've known, to hold it lightly. And I interpreted this to mean there's going to be new things coming, new perspectives, new solutions, new supports. And so it's really important to be open to new perspectives and new ways of doing things. So as this is closing out, the next card that came through was Covenant Sacred Contract. And this to me felt like a combo of things. It felt like where sacred contracts had been activated, where sacred contracts had been in play, and where new sacred contracts are being written and coming forward, and or they've already been written but they're going to actually be showing up in this next phase. Okay, so with that, the next two cards that came together was Winter's Dream Gestation Period and Sky Bridge Possibility for Union. So here in the Northern Hemisphere, we're obviously in summer, but in the Southern Hemisphere, it's very much in the winter gestation period. And I've talked about this multiple times before, where interesting here where I am, even though the seasons are completely different. In the snow, we drop down into sub-zero temperatures and get feet and feet of snow. And in the summers, we range into the 80s and high 90s with humidity and drought. We get the extremes here. And there's also a similar energy that happens in winter and in summer. And it tends to be that certain areas go into a dormant, like rest period, and other things are blossoming during those times. And so, wherever you are, you may be feeling some of this gestation energy. And it says Sky Bridge possibility for union. And we're going to touch in on that in just a moment. But I wanted to speak to you again about these last couple months where we've had these timeline shifts, excuse my voice. And then it felt like things opened. It was clear there was timeline shifts. A lot opened up, a lot was processing. Some people came into union, some people touched in on a union timeline and it quickly dissolved and shifted away into a different direction. And what is happening now is that there's this another gestation period, another quiet time, another space of stillness and silence, because whatever's been getting completed and cleaned up in this last period, these last few weeks, few months, maybe the next few weeks and few months, is actually what's paving way for that higher timeline and for that sacred contract to come in. Give me a moment because now all these cards are speaking new messages to me. Like, first off, these came together, and I was seeing like again, it's like as one door closes, another one opens. And it's like on the other side of this is the union energies. And this is reading to me very much like internal union and that inner masculine and feminine, the inner child coming into union with your higher self and your human self. This right now is making me think of the Hierophant energy and the Light Seers deck, where you're bridging and holding all of the energies through the dimensions, all of the aspects of yourself, or at least in that process. And what's coming to me is like a lot more of this work has already been done, but you may not have necessarily been seeing the results yet. But in this next phase of these things completing and opening is where you will start to feel more physical results in your life. What's coming is one of the key pieces with this is to let go of the expectations of what that was going to look like in a very specific manner and actually allow the universe the space to bring it to you in the most aligned way. It's like if you've been micromanaging the universe, you're going to want to unravel that. Okay. Or even micromanaging yourself. This is a time to really release some of that. In the sacred covenant and gestation period, what was standing out to me on these two was this spiral energy, right? And the spiral on the scroll. And I actually want to pull some deeper cards on that because I feel like this is representing what's gestating. This is representing the rest of the contract that's still wanting to open. And this is interesting because this similar message came in just about a year ago. And what's coming in is that there was a call to this, there was an awareness of it, but not a whole lot happened. It's also bringing to mind last year around this time, I was going to do a Sacred Feminine series and the energy just dissipated. It was like things were being seeded, but it wasn't just time yet. Things were like gestating. So it seems to be that things that were coming to light or coming into your awareness maybe about a year or so ago, 11, 12, 13 months ago, is coming back up to what I'm seeing now is these are seeds that were gestating and now they are ready to sprout. So I'm going to pull some light seers and see if we're getting any. Look at what I opened to. I opened right to it. I said that that's what it reminded me of. Look at that. Okay. Well, I also want to show you what else I opened to, which was the Page of Cups. And this to me immediately is speaking about actually the masculine collective. And things processing, and you, even as feminines, you can be feeling this within your own energies right now. What's coming to me is that most recent video that I did where it said the masculines thought they had it figured out and now things were like getting rearranged again. Okay, so this is getting a bit deeper. This feels like when we had these timeline shifts over the last few months, again, the masculines were moving timelines as well, and they got themselves into a new timeline and quickly realized this wasn't the right timeline. And yet, so what, excuse me, the energy is very jumbled. I can feel it in everything. So just be patient with me as I tune into this jumbled energy and see what it wants to say. Okay. This feels like where the masculines were actually manifesting something specific and attempting to control their fate, their timeline. And it feels like source, the higher power, allowed it because it allowed the feminines to have some other shifts as well that they were needing to be freed from. And now that things are settling, the divine is stepping back in. And now, whatever the masculines are in right now, the divine is descending back in. But this feels important because this is where the masculines are learning a deeper layer of my will to thy will. And no matter how much they want to control things and push things forward in a specific manner, this is the divine and their higher self coming in to say, tapping them on the shoulder, like, mm-mm, you have other things that you agreed to do that are calling you, that are pulling you. And so this is, I think I did a member video a few weeks ago that said all of the things that they were trying to avoid is what is pulling on them. And I want to be clear, this does not feel like the feminine's divine feminine pulling on the masculine. This is their own higher self, their own connection to source, their own core soul, sacred contracts and covenants with themselves. And so this feels like this is in process. This is maybe why many of the feminines feel back in the stillness and the silence as this energy is syncing up. I do feel actually more wants to come between these two because this does feel like it's going to be some time of integration and learning for this specific set of masculines if this is resonating with you. Okay, this is like a deeper level of transformation that's happening. And I think that probably many feminines can understand this energy in the sense of like where you've been working along, you've had really big breakthroughs, you've learned a ton, and you think like, I got this figured out, only to have the rug pulled out from under you to realize you're just getting started and there's more. And I'm not saying that this is going to happen for the feminines now. I feel like you've gone through many iterations of this. I'm sharing it because this is what is coming through for the masculines. Now, feminines, you may experience a piece of this, but what I'm really picking up on for the feminines is that things are going to be smoothing out. I know we've been flip-flopping back and forth, but I'm getting specific downloads, and I'm going to share a couple here. The energies that are starting to come through for me and I'm integrating, and I know at some point I'm going to be sharing here in a very new way, is the restoration of the feminine and coming in with the energy of nourishment, care, rest, replenishment, consideration, resources, nurturing, kindness. It's like all of those feminine energies and feminine supports are wanting to come in for everyone because all of us, all of humanity has been robbed of the sacred feminine essences. And so we're going to be supporting that here on the channel, just so you know. And it feels like that part is important. So for the feminines here with me, who might be feeling like you're so ready to receive the new. You've been doing so much for so long on your own and just feeling that deep depletion and exhaustion around this where you have been working. That is because it is time for expansion, but not for you to force or figure it out. In your stillness, in your silence, that is where the seeds grow, right? That's the gestation period. That is where expansion happens, not by forcing, not by pushing, not by having to do, not by the constant extractive energy that the old overlay constantly was pulling from us. This is about rest and replenishment and allowing the energies to rebuild within. Okay, feminines. Again, we're going to talk more about that coming up, but I wanted to share it here to plant that seed because it feels important that, yes, we're still straddling and we're still tying up loose ends, but that time of replenishment is in process. So, in whatever ways you can support that for yourself, please do it. Masculine, feminine, however you identify. If this is resonating, please honor it. Okay. But we are going to go back to like what is happening as the feminines are receiving and replenishing and resourcing up. What is coming in this transformation with the masculines? Okay, so it's got the Queen of Pentacles and the Devil. So this feels like they're going to be facing some deep shadows as well as the sacred feminine energies, or the sacred feminine energies and the shadows that have kept them separated from their own internal feminine energies or away from the divine sacred feminine in general. But this feels like, as I'm seeing this energy, this feels very much like where they've been running or trying to keep it closed down because it was too uncomfortable to look at. It's like source is now holding their awareness open. This very much feels like they're not going to be able to close down in the way that they were allowed to before. And part of why they were allowed to close down in the past was because they were stabilizing as the feminines were transforming. Now the feminines are much more stable. And like I said, really starting to move into holding the divine, sacred feminine energies. And this is activating this next layer divinely. It's in divine alignment, divine order, divine timing. Okay, now I'm getting another message that wants to share for those of you who didn't see my most recent video around divine feminine's soul song. For those of you who aren't familiar with the soul song verbiage, that's like the core soul frequency, right? That energy of all of who you are, that truth of who you are. And this is a very important piece of these next steps and stages. So I'll put that in the pinned comments if any of you want to connect with that video. It's here on YouTube. And like what's coming through with that is that this is the part of the feminine's core soul frequency. One of the things I talked about in that video is how many of the feminines have been craving that, wanting that, but also there's those fears around truly dropping into receptive energy all of the way, or not actually even having the experiences to necessarily know how to do that in a healthy way if the feminines have spent so much of their lives mitigating unhealthy or toxic energies or traumas. Okay. So that is a lot of the things that I want to start talking about and supporting here on the channel is supporting the sacred feminines feeling safe to actually drop into those sacred receptive energies in a way that is safe, is supportive, and allows everyone to start really remembering what it feels like to be safe in those frequencies. And I'm sure many of you have felt moments of it. Maybe some of you are already fully embedded within it. Beautiful. If you want to share any tips with other feminines in the comments, please feel free. But really, just nurturing and nourishing the sacred feminine energies within and on the planet and here on Harmonious Hearts. And this feels like a very big key for the feminines, again, to move into the next phase and just giving space and grace for the masculines to go through whatever they need to grow through. And like the exhaustion that's been coming up in the feminine collective really seems to be that the feminines have done what they can within that bandwidth. And of course, you're still going to be navigating what you're navigating, whatever's in front of you. But it absolutely feels time for that deep, clear replenishment from your higher self, from the highest source, from the planet. And again, we're going to see how this unfolds. But since it's coming in, let's see. Is there anything else that wants to come in with this? Okay. Yes, I'm going to pick one for the from the Rose Oracle for the feminines, and then I'm going to go into a part two specifically for the feminines that I'm going to do for members or an individual video over on Patreon and YouTube. Okay. We have the Rose Garden and the Mystic Rose. Innocence, forgiveness, be gentle with yourself. Compassion, devotion, humility, humanity, and grace. Yes, very, very much deeply supportive energies for the feminines coming in. And actually, as I say that, I'm not gonna do it on Patreon or YouTube. I'm going to do it here on YouTube and bring these messages in for everyone. And let's see what comes up in the part two. All right. But we're moving into really holding sacred feminine space in that internal union and really allowing those to drop into the physical. Okay. I kind of feel I feel like something a little bit different might come in the part two. That's why I'm gonna leave this here and I will post that when it is ready. I hope that you're all having a very beautiful day. And I'm glad that I did this because just coming through it, I feel a lot of the heaviness has lifted. And it feels important for the feminines to receive that, to receive the support, and to allow yourself to just open up to replenishment in this next phase. All right, my loves. I hope you have a good rest of your day. Take care.